Hey everybody, I am Vince of Geekvolution, and welcome to Horror Movie Rewind. Warning, some of these images may be graphic. The dead have long been in the mind's eye of the public. Few things can inspire terror as much as what we don't know, or maybe more accurately, can't know. The shark in Jaws was a monster from the deep, of unspecific and therefore unknown origin. The insanity of the Slaughterhouse family knows no solid bounds. But those threats are easily tangible, even if their tangibility leads to regrettable results. With ghost stories, we enter into a world with radically altered supernatural rules. The writers can get away with anything, but they have to get away with it. Therefore, it has to play by the rules that it establishes. And if it doesn't establish limits to itself, then why am I watching it in the first place? The Ring is based on a Japanese film called Ringu, or however you pronounce that word. The Japanese film is based on a novel. Both the American and Japanese films spawned a sequel, neither of which had anything to do with the book or each other. Admittedly, I have not seen The Ring 2 or Ringu 2 because I just can't muster up the give a crap to watch them. I'll get around to it eventually, but for now I have more important things to do. Honestly, that paint's not going to watch itself dry. The main reason that I'm bothered by the idea of a sequel to The Ring is because the movie treats itself like a mystery. Why make a sequel to a mystery? What mystery can be had beyond the end revelation? Don't worry, I'll eventually give it a chance. Anyway, as I've said before, movies are better when they don't restrict themselves to a single genre. So a horror mystery is a noble effort. However, I have one small issue with the mystery aspects. Where is it? In the opening scene, two girls blatantly tell us what is killing people. These two stunningly stereotyped girls talk about a VHS tape that, after watching, will kill the viewer in 7 days. And lucky for us, through miracle of coincidence. Yeah, that's what I mean, coincidence. This girl has seen the tape, and it just so happens to be 7 days later. Now, here's something odd. Not only has the victim-to-be seen the tape, but the other girl in the scene is aware of its existence. How does she know about it? Did she hear a second-hand story about this girl's experience? How could this girl just bring it up in conversation without knowing about this girl's involvement? The knowledge that these people possess indicates that this girl's involvement is common knowledge. They knew about it, so where did she hear the story? I suppose that a friend of a friend saw the tape, then spread the news before she died, and this girl was lucky enough to hear about it. Yes, I'm aware that I'm nitpicking a relatively insignificant scene in the movie, but that's the problem. The opening scene is utterly useless, and it ruins the film's mystery. Let's take a look at what the scene tries to do. It lets us know that we're about to watch a horror film, but most of the audience will already know that, or even if they don't, they should be able to watch it and figure it out as the movie progresses. This scene doesn't even set the tone for the film. It's as if they shot this scene thinking that they were about to kill Drew Barrymore and have the little girl be played by Matthew Lillard. This scene is massively frustrating because the film starts off by underestimating its own potential as a mystery. Sure, it establishes the idea that a VHS tape can kill a person, but several scenes later are used to establish the same information. Therefore, we end up watching Naomi Watts get caught up to speed with what we already know. This is called a double beat. We know it. Why show it again? Major spoiler warning, guys. The film follows Watts' character as she investigates a mystically imbued VHS tape and discovers that a girl was tossed down a well and left for dead. The plot has almost nothing to do with the two girls in the opening scene, save for the victim's relation to Watts' character. But the victim's death and relation are immediately established by Watts in the following scenes. The opening scene could be cut, and we would have a better film experience. This scene ultimately accomplishes the removal of all mystery from the movie, other than how the tape actually kills people, which is saved for an incredibly vague reveal at the end of the film. It also adds an inciting incident, but that's not always necessary. In fact, sometimes it's just a bad idea. Okie dokie, now that I've thoroughly beaten that horse to death, let's move on to what's good about this movie. The Ring's biggest attribute is that it has style. The color palette offers its audience an aesthetic uneasiness. The colors make every location in the film feel like the Ghost Girl's dank prison. It symbolizes that at all points in the film, the people are subject to the supernatural influence of the ghost girl. And that's where the complications start, if you ignore the first scene. The film tries to make us believe that the closer Watts dives toward the source of the video, the closer she is to the supernatural realm. The ghost girl has the ability to control or at least influence the realm of the living. Her influence has no rhyme or reason to it. Remember the girl from the beginning? She reappears in an equally needless scene. After saying her friend died, she was committed to an insane asylum. The crazy girl tells Watts how many days that Watts has left to live. How does she know? She didn't watch the video. Sure, she saw the victim, but so did the victim's mother and the people who collected her corpse. Maybe it had something to do with the girl's presence in the house while the victim was being killed, but we know that the crazy girl didn't see the ghost girl actually kill the victim. So I ask, why is Crazy Chick so mystically imbued as to know the number of days that Watts has left before she dies? That would indicate that the ghost girl has a continued influence on the crazy girl. Sure, it's effectively creepy, but it raises too many questions. My point is that the ghost's involvement in the material world is without rules. If she can affect people who haven't seen the video, then the video is pointless, and the girl isn't actually trapped, and then the O. Henry ending becomes pointless. But I'll get to that later. Furthermore, after the boy sees a video, he is able to regularly communicate with the dead girl. The logic is that the boy and the ghost girl are children, so they can communicate as playmates, or that children are spiritually connected, or that children are more spiritually aware than adults. How? Why? These possibilities are destroyed by the fact that the boy acts like an adult. In fact, he's more serious and responsible than most adults. The movie goes out of its way to make this over-serious boy a contrast to his under-serious father. The only reason for the boy's spiritual sensitivity that I can see is that the ghost girl is after the boy, but that's clearly not the case considering that she kills anyone who watches the tape. And in the end, anybody who shows the video to other people are allowed to survive the 7-day death sentence. Both Watts and the boy survive. So the ghost girl isn't picky about the people who get to live or die. This movie expects its audience to ignore major questions and just appreciate the tension that it weaves. The tension is effective, and I must say that I enjoyed the film a lot more the second viewing, but only because I knew that I would be dissatisfied with the number of questions that the film actually answers. The movie relies on the uncertainty of reality to drive its horror, but that in no way means that they are exempt from clarifying their rules. In the spirit of radically switching gears, I have to say that the characters were single-faceted. If the opening scene had not been in the film, then maybe they could have spent more time exploring the protagonist. I'm not saying that we need to know everything about Watts' character. I don't really care where she grew up, what her favorite color is, or even if her nose itches. Unless it's relevant. I'm just saying that all we know is that she's an overworked single mother, and if she's the protagonist, we need more relevant information about her. As it is, she becomes a stereotyped character. The most interesting thing that Watts' character does is tell off her boss, who wants to fire her for being repeatedly irresponsible. This scene, while humorous, stands out and makes her slightly unsympathetic. Sure, the argument could be made that the scene is used to establish that she is too wrapped up in her own little world to foresee the trick ending. However, she's a reporter. Her job is to get wrapped up in other people's worlds, and she spends the entire film doing exactly that. Ultimately, the character info is sparse, and the film suffers from the shallowness of these people. What little information we do get is shoved into two scenes. Both scenes are about this guy. This guy who is easily described as the artsy film guy. One scene reveals that the film guy is Watts' former lover. The other scene reveals that he's the father of her child. Every other moment in this film is devoted to the spooky control of the ghost girl and Watts' search for the source of the tape. The film tries to establish two different status quos, both of which start before the film does. The boy's teacher states that the kid has always been well-behaved and perhaps a little antisocial. This scene firmly establishes that the mother is too busy to look after her child. The boy is too serious for his own good, and that it has always been this way. The other status quo is presented in this picture. It's intended to show that at one point the boy was a happy, smiling, regular child, but nothing else in the film supports the idea. He was an overly serious boy before the film started, and he still is. According to his teacher, this borderline antisocial behavior predates the death of his cousin, and it obviously predates the boy's viewing of the mystical tape. So later when the boy starts talking to the ghost girl, it seems odd since the ghost girl obviously had nothing to do with the boy before he or his mother watched the tape. Therefore, his intimate knowledge of the ghost girl's situation is unfounded. Ultimately, we have no idea why the boy acts the way he does. Parental neglect usually results in the child child lashing out in order to gain attention. This kid is satisfied to fade into the background. He didn't learn this behavior from his busybody mother. He could not have learned it from his mostly absent father, and it's certainly not genetics. The trick ending would have been effective if it had raised the stakes. Spoiler warning, guys. Another one. In the end, Watts and the film guy set the girl free from her watery grave. Watts triumphantly tells her son of the deed, and the boy uses his inexplicable spiritual sensitivity to inform her that she just saved an evil creature from a rightfully deserved prison. However, the ghost girl has the same level of control at the end of the film as she does the beginning. Therefore, the prison wasn't a prison. So what was the point? The rules are askew. Without rules, all we're left with is nonsense, albeit effectively creepy nonsense. I'm not saying that the Ring has to abide by some sort of preset rules. I'm saying that it has to set rules for itself. It needs to abide within the reality that it establishes. In a reality where absolutely anything is possible is not an effective reality to base a plot on. I applaud The Ring for trying to develop a mystery. I also applaud it for mixing technology with the supernatural. But they don't effectively explore the characters or answer questions. So I have to give The Ring 2 out of 5. Thanks for watching Horror Movie Rewind, and tune in next time for my review of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.